Princess Aria stood by the large window of her spaceship. Earth looked like a blue and green marble growing bigger as they got closer. Her skin changed colors like shiny pearls when she felt nervous, which she did now. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space. Stars dotted the darkness outside. Aria had traveled to many planets before, but Earth was special. Humans were new to space travel and meetings with other worlds. This visit would be their first major diplomatic event with the Astrian Empire. "Your Highness," said a voice behind her. Aria turned to see Taro, her chief advisor. He was tall and thin with pale blue skin that didn't shimmer like hers. His 6 fingers moved quickly over a floating screen of light. "The suitor list has been updated," he said, making the screen larger so she could see it. 37 candidates from 12 star systems now seek your hand." Aria tried not to frown. As princess, she had to look proper at all times. 37. Last week it was 29. "News of your visit to Earth has spread. More nobles wish to meet you at the summit." "Another diplomatic parade," she sighed quietly. Taro pretended not to hear her comment. "Prince Krell of the Orion Belt has sent gifts ahead. The Centauri delegation promises technology rights. The Vega ambassador hints at military support." Aria nodded but didn't really listen. She had heard these promises before. Everyone wanted to marry the princess of the most powerful empire in this part of the galaxy. Nobody wanted to marry Aria herself. "We land in 3 hours," Taro continued. "The Earth leaders have prepared rooms in their best building. The summit begins tomorrow with a welcome ceremony." "Thank you, Taro. I'll prepare." When he left, Aria touched the window. Her father, the Emperor, had made it clear. This trip wasn't just about meeting Earth leaders. It was time for her to choose a mate. At 120 years old, she was young for an Astrian, but old enough to marry. The Empire needed alliances. Her personal feelings didn't matter. 3 hours later, their ship landed at the special spaceport built just for this event. Earth officials waited in a line, wearing their best clothes. Aria put on her royal face. Calm, distant, perfect. "Welcome to Earth, Your Highness," said the human leader, bowing slightly. "We are honored by your presence." The welcome party moved inside a large building where more humans waited. Aria noticed they tried not to stare at her shimmering skin or her 7-fingered hands. She appreciated their effort. The first day passed in a blur of meetings and introductions. Aria met Earth officials, other alien representatives, and of course, the suitors. Prince Krell was tall and strong with green scales. The Centauri ambassador had 4 arms and spoke very formally. The Vega representative wore armor even at dinner. None of them looked at her face when they talked. They looked at her crown, her royal symbols, the empire she represented. On the second day, Aria managed to slip away from Taro for a moment. The main hall was full of people from dozens of worlds. Servers carried drinks and small foods. Music played softly. "Excuse me," Aria said to a server. "Is there somewhere quiet nearby?" The human pointed to a small door. "The garden, Your Highness." Aria stepped outside and took a deep breath. The earth air smelled different, rich with plants she didn't know. The garden was small but beautiful, with stone paths and benches among flowers. She wasn't alone. A human man sat on a bench, reading something on a small device. He looked up as she approached. "Oh." He stood quickly, almost dropping his device. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect. Should I leave?" "No, please stay," Aria said quickly. "I just needed a moment away from the crowd." He nodded. "I understand. These big events can be a lot." He didn't bow or use her title, which was strange but refreshing. "You're not part of the diplomatic team?" she asked. "No. I'm Kim Jun. I study other cultures, xenanthropology, we call it. I'm here to observe and learn." Aria found herself smiling. "So you're watching us all like specimens?" He laughed. "Not exactly. I'm interested in how different beings communicate, how cultures develop across stars. I'm lucky to be invited. I'm Aria. I know, he said, then looked embarrassed. I mean, everyone knows who you are. She sat on the bench, and after a moment, he sat too, keeping a respectful distance. Shovat Nameril, he said suddenly. Aria turned to him in surprise. You speak Astrian. Just a few phrases. Did I say it right? It's supposed to be greetings and good fortune. Your pronunciation is almost perfect, she said, truly impressed. The Astrian language was difficult for humans because it used sounds their throats weren't made to create. I've studied your language for years, Kim Jun explained. Your culture fascinates me. How you've built peace across so many worlds, how your art forms changed after space travel. They talked as the sun began to set. June asked about her home, about what she thought of Earth, about books and music. Not once did he mention politics, marriage, or alliances. When Taro finally found her, looking worried and slightly angry, Aria realized she'd spent an hour just talking. Your Highness, the Orion delegation is waiting, Taro said firmly. Of course. She stood. Thank you for the conversation, Kim Jun. He stood and bowed slightly. The pleasure was mine, Princess Aria. As she walked back to her duties, Aria realized something had changed. For the first time in her long life, someone had spoken to her as a person, not a princess. In Kim Jun's eyes, she had seen no political agenda, no calculation of advantage, only genuine interest and wonder. For the first time, Aria felt seen for herself rather than her title, and for the first time, she wondered if her visit to Earth might become something more than just diplomatic duty. Explain this coffee ritual again, Aria said, sitting across from June in the small cafe. She looked around at the other humans drinking from steaming cups. Her holographic disguise made her appear human. Dark hair, normal skin without shimmer, and 5 fingers instead of 7. June smiled as he poured a small container of cream into his cup. It's less about the drink and more about the conversation. Humans meet for coffee to talk, to connect. The drink just gives us a reason to sit together. Aria picked up her cup carefully. The cafe was far from the main diplomatic area, in a quiet part of the city. No royal guards, no advisors, no watching eyes. Just her and June. It's bitter, she said after taking a sip. Try adding sugar. She dropped a small white cube into the dark liquid and watched it dissolve. On my world, we have a drink made from crystal flowers. It changes flavor depending on your mood. That sounds amazing, June said, his eyes lighting up the way they always did when she shared something about her home. 4 days had passed since their first meeting in the garden. Aria had found reasons to see him every day since then. Today she had told Taro she needed to study human commercial customs. Not exactly a lie, but not the full truth either. The summit ends in 3 days, June said. Will you return to Estrada then? Aria stirred her coffee, watching the small whirlpool form. Yes, my father expects me back with progress on alliances. And a husband picked out? June asked carefully. Not yet decided, but expected soon. She looked up at him. Tell me more about Earth. I've only seen meeting rooms and official gardens. The next day, June took her to see the ocean. They stood on a rocky beach, watching waves crash against the shore. It never stops, Aria said, fascinated by the constant motion. Her holographic disguise flickered slightly in the strong wind, but no one was close enough to notice. Earth is mostly water, June explained. Some scientists think that's why humans developed the way we did, always looking at the horizon, wondering what's beyond. Like how you look to the stars, she said. Exactly. He taught her to skip stones across the water. She was better at it than he was, her natural Astrian sense of physics giving her an advantage. They laughed together when his stones sank immediately. The next day, they visited a park filled with trees covered in pink flowers. Cherry blossoms, June told her. They only bloom for a short time each year. In my culture, they represent the beauty and briefness of life. Arya reached up and touched a flower. On her finger, a petal looked even more delicate. "We have crystal forests on my homeworld," she said softly. "When the 3 moons align, the crystals sing. The whole forest makes music that carries for miles." "I can't even imagine that," Jun said. "Maybe someday you could hear it," she suggested, then looked away quickly. Back at the diplomatic center, duties pulled Arya into a different world. The Earth leaders wanted trade agreements, the other alien delegations wanted alliances, and the suitors wanted her. General Dorn of the Varaxian fleet was the most persistent. Tall and broad with gray skin covered in military honors, he cornered Arya after a meeting. "Princess Arya," he said with a stiff bow. His translator device made his voice sound flat. "The Varaxian Empire controls 37 star systems, including 6 along your border." "I'm aware of your territory, General," she replied politely. He stepped closer. "My emperor believes our empires would be stronger together. United through marriage, we would control half the known galaxy." His eyes narrowed. "Separated, we might become competitors." Arya understood the threat in his words. "I will consider all diplomatic options, General. The decision will be made with great care." "Do not take too long, Princess. Our armada stands ready, either to protect your worlds or to challenge them." After he walked away, Arya felt her skin flickering between colors despite her efforts to stay calm. The Varaxians were dangerous. Their ships were powerful. A war would cost millions of lives. That evening, she slipped away again to meet Jun at a small restaurant. As they ate, she told him about her world's music and art, carefully avoiding any mention of General Dorn or the political pressure she faced. When she returned to her rooms in the diplomatic building, Captain Lee was waiting. He was her head of security, chosen by her father. His face looked serious. "Your Highness, this is the 4th evening you've left without proper security," he said. "I had my personal shield and emergency beacon," she answered. "That's not enough." Captain Lee's expression grew more concerned. "You've been meeting with the human researcher, Kim Jun." Arya felt a cold feeling in her chest. "You've been following me. It's my job to protect you. These meetings put you at risk." "He's just helping me understand Earth culture." Captain Lee shook his head. "Your absences endanger not just yourself, Princess, but interstellar peace. The Varaxian general has noticed. Others have too. They wonder what you're doing, who you're meeting with." "My personal time is my own," Arya said, trying to sound firm. "Not for a princess," Captain Lee replied gently. "Every moment of your life has meaning for the Empire. Every choice affects millions." After he left, Arya stood by the window, looking out at the Earth night. Lights from the city sparkled like stars. Somewhere out there was June, who made her laugh, who listened to her stories, who saw her as Arya, and not just as princess of the Astrian Empire. Tomorrow they planned to visit a museum. She would tell him about the pressure she faced. Perhaps he would have some idea, some way she could fulfill her duty without losing herself. But as she watched the city lights, Arya knew the truth. Every meeting with June pulled her further from her royal path. Every hour with him was borrowed time. The weight of her empire, the peace between worlds, the lives of billions, all rested on her making the right choice. And yet when she thought of never seeing him again, her heart felt like it was breaking. The embassy garden was quiet at night. Tall earth plants cast gentle shadows across the stone paths. The diplomatic meetings had ended hours ago, and most visitors were sleeping or preparing for tomorrow. Arya waited nervously by the small fountain. Captain Lee had doubled her guards after discovering her meetings with June, but she had learned the patrol patterns. She had exactly 30 minutes before the next guard would pass through the garden. When June appeared at the garden entrance, Arya felt both relief and worry. She had sent him a message asking to meet one last time. "You came," she said softly as he approached. "Of course I did." He looked concerned. "Your message sounded urgent." Moonlight filtered through the trees, painting silver patterns across the garden. Arya took a deep breath. I'm leaving tomorrow. My father has ordered me to return home and make my decision about the alliance offers. June's face fell. So soon. I thought the summit lasted another 2 days. General Dorn has been pushing for an immediate answer. The Voraxian fleet has moved closer to our borders. She looked down. I wanted to see you one more time. I'll miss our talks, June said quietly. Arya looked at him, really looked at him. This human who had shown her kindness, who had shared his world without wanting anything in return, who had never once mentioned the power of her empire or the advantage of her favor. There's something I want to show you before I go, she said. Something no human has seen. Arya reached up to the small device on her collar that projected her human disguise. With a soft click, she turned it off. The hologram faded away, revealing her true form. Her skin shimmered in the moonlight, shifting between pearlescent colors that reflected her emotions. Her 7-fingered hands glowed softly. Her eyes, larger than human eyes, caught the light like diamonds. June stared in wonder. This is me, Arya said, suddenly feeling vulnerable. The real me. For a long moment, June said nothing. Arya felt her skin turn a shade of blue that showed her anxiety. Then June smiled. You're beautiful, he said simply. He didn't back away or look frightened. He just looked at her with the same warmth in his eyes. In all my years, Arya whispered, through all my travels to different worlds, I've never met anyone who saw beyond my title, who wanted to know me, not the princess. Her skin rippled with emotion. I know this is impossible. You're human. I'm Astrian. Our worlds are too different. Are they? June asked. He stepped closer. We both look at the stars and wonder. We both enjoy music and art. We both value connection. My father expects me to choose a mate who brings power to our empire. Someone like General Dorn. June's expression grew serious. Is that what you want? No. The word came out before she could stop it. I've never felt understood until you. But my duty. Sometimes duty and heart can find the same path, June said. He slowly reached for her hand. Some things transcend worlds. His fingers touched hers. The warmth of his skin against her luminescent hand sent a shiver through her. In that moment, the galaxy seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them in the moonlit garden. Then the embassy alarm split the night. Red lights flashed across the garden. A loud siren wailed from the main building. Voices shouted in the distance. What's happening? June asked, pulling back in surprise. Security breach, Arya said, quickly activating her holographic disguise again. Someone must have. She didn't finish because several guards ran into the garden, followed by General Dorn. His gray face looked furious in the flashing red lights. Princess Arya, he bellowed. What is the meaning of this? Captain Lee stood behind him, looking both angry and worried. Your Highness, the general demanded to know your location when you weren't in your quarters. General Dorn pointed at June. This human. This is why you've delayed your decision. His translator couldn't hide the disgust in his voice. You would consider a primitive species over the might of the Voraxian Empire. I wasn't. Arya began. This is an insult to my proposal, Dorn shouted. An insult to my emperor. The human will be removed, and you will answer for this disrespect. More guards entered the garden. Earth security officers arrived too, looking confused by the commotion. A small device on Captain Lee's wrist beeped loudly. He looked at it, then at Arya with wide eyes. Your Highness, urgent communication from the Emperor. The garden fell silent except for the continuing alarm. Captain Lee pressed a button on his wrist device, and a holographic image of Arya's father appeared in the air between them. The Emperor of Astraea looked stern. His face showed no emotion, but his skin glowed a deep, angry red. Daughter, he said, his voice traveling across stars to reach her. I have received word of your behavior on Earth, of your secret meetings with a human, of the insult given to our potential allies. Arya tried to speak, But her father continued. You will return home immediately. The diplomatic mission is ended. We will discuss your future when you arrive. The hologram vanished. Captain Lee looked at Arya with sympathy hidden beneath his professional expression. Prepare the ship, he told the other Astrian guards. We depart in 1 hour. General Dorn stepped close to Arya, lowering his voice. This is not over, Princess. My emperor will hear of this insult. The consequences will be severe. As the guards escorted her back to the embassy building, Arya glanced back once. June stood alone in the garden, Earth security officers keeping him from following. His face showed determination, not defeat. She wanted to say goodbye, to explain, but there was no time. No chance. Her duty was calling her home, away from the one person who had seen her true self. In the chaos of preparation for emergency departure, no one noticed June speaking quietly to an Earth official he knew. No one saw him receiving a small badge that would get him past certain security points. No one paid attention to the human helping load supplies onto the Astrian ship, just another worker in the busy spaceport. And as the royal vessel prepared for departure, Princess Arya didn't notice June slipping past the distracted guards and finding a small storage compartment near the ship's cargo hold. His eyes showed determination as he pulled the door closed, hiding himself inside. If Arya couldn't stay on Earth, then he would go to the stars with her. The journey to Astraea took 7 days. June stayed hidden among storage containers, eating emergency rations he had brought. The ship was huge, with many places to hide. When guards passed, he froze and held his breath. On the 3rd day, he almost got caught when an engineer checked some equipment near his hiding spot. But the Astrian didn't look behind the large crates where June was crouched. When the ship finally landed, June waited until most people had left. Then he slipped out, wearing a service uniform he had found in a locker. The spaceport buzzed with activity as royal guards escorted Princess Arya to a waiting transport. June's first view of the Astrian capital took his breath away. Crystal towers reached into a purple sky. 3 moons hung visible even in daylight. The buildings seemed to sing as wind passed through them, creating gentle music. He followed workers heading to the palace, keeping his head down. His disguise wasn't perfect. He had only 5 fingers instead of 7, and his skin didn't shimmer. But most Astrians were too busy to notice one strange service worker. The palace itself made Earth's greatest buildings look simple. Crystal spires dwarfed June as he walked beneath them. Light bounced through the transparent walls, creating rainbows everywhere. The halls were wide and tall, built for a species that valued space and light. For 3 days, June hid among the service staff, learning their routines. He cleaned floors and carried items when asked, always nodding instead of speaking to hide his human voice. At night, he slept in empty storage rooms, moving frequently to avoid detection. He learned that Princess Arya was confined to her royal apartments while the emperor decided her punishment. Guards stood at her doors day and night. Visitors were strictly limited. On the 4th day, Jum discovered the palace library. It was vast, with crystal tablets instead of books, each containing thousands of Astrian records. Using translation tools he had brought from Earth, he began searching for anything that might help Arya. Meanwhile, Princess Arya faced her father's anger. The emperor had called a formal court meeting, with all the noble houses present. Arya stood in the center of the grand hall, wearing her royal attire but feeling more trapped than ever. The summit was a failure, the emperor said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Our potential allies feel insulted. The Voraxian Empire threatens war. Arya kept her head high. The Voraxians always threaten. It's their way of negotiation. General Dorn claims you dishonored his proposal by meeting secretly with a human. Whispers spread through the watching nobles. Humans were considered interesting but primitive. The idea of a princess choosing such company over a powerful general shocked many. I was learning about Earth culture, Arya said. You were neglecting your duty, her father countered. Now you must correct this mistake. The suitors wait for your decision. Choose today, and we may still avoid conflict." The hall fell silent. 7 noble suitors stepped forward, including representatives sent by General Dorn and other powerful leaders. Arya looked at each face. She saw ambition, calculation, and desire for power. None looked at her the way Jun had. "I have considered all proposals," she said clearly, "and I reject them all." Gasps echoed through the hall. The Emperor's skin flashed red with anger. "You risk war for this rebellion," he demanded. Arya stood taller. "I risk nothing by seeking true connection. These suitors want our empire's power, not me. Our people deserve better than alliances built on political convenience." "You speak of things you don't understand," the Emperor said. "Marriages have sealed our treaties for 10,000 years. Perhaps it's time for new traditions," Arya replied. The Emperor dismissed the court in anger. As guards escorted Arya back to her rooms, she wondered if she would ever see June again. She wondered if her stand would matter. That night, as Arya sat alone in her chambers, a service worker entered with her evening meal. When the door closed, the worker looked up. "June," she gasped, barely keeping her voice down. "How did you?" "I stowed away on your ship," he said quickly. "I've been hiding in the palace." She rushed to him, then stopped, afraid guards might be watching. "You could be executed for this. Humans aren't allowed in the royal palace without permission." "I had to see you again," he said, "and I found something important." From his uniform, he pulled a small crystal tablet. "In your library." It took days to translate parts of it. Arya took the tablet, her fingers glowing as they touched the ancient record. "This is from the early expansion period, over 5,000 years ago. It tells the story of Princess Sun," June explained. "She fell in love with a being from the Lyra system during first contact. Her father forbade the union." Arya's eyes widened as she read. She refused all other suitors. There was nearly a war. "Keep reading," June urged. "Princess Sun challenged the royal marriage laws," Arya continued. "She argued that genetic diversity would strengthen our species, not weaken it. The High Council eventually agreed, creating an exception for cases where unusual unions might benefit the Empire. The exception still exists in your laws," Jun said. "It was never removed, just forgotten." Arya looked at him with new hope. "My ancestors understood that strength comes from diversity, not isolation." "Exactly," Jun said. "Your empire grew strong because it embraced differences. That's what made Astraea great. Not just conquest or power, but understanding and connection across species." Arya's skin glowed bright with excitement. This could change everything. "The High Council still exists. If I present this precedent, they might support my right to choose." "It's a chance," June agreed. They talked late into the night, planning how to use this discovery. When June finally had to leave before the guard change, Arya touched his hand. "Thank you for coming across the stars for me," she said softly. "I would cross galaxies," he replied. The next morning, Princess Arya requested a formal audience with the High Council, the oldest governing body in the Empire that even the Emperor had to respect. She cited ancient law and demanded the right to present her case. As preparations began for this unexpected hearing, word spread through the palace about the princess who defied tradition and the ancient law she had discovered. Some nobles were scandalized. Others were curious. A few quietly supported what they called her courage. And in a small service room, Jean prepared for the most important moment of his life. Before he slept, he looked out at the crystal city shining under 3 moons and thought about how far he had come from his simple life on Earth. Tomorrow would decide not just his fate, but possibly the future of 2 worlds. Retrice F. The Interstellar Council Chamber was the oldest room in the Astraean Palace. Its walls were made of the first crystals harvested when Astraeans began building cities. The ceiling opened to show the 3 moons. In the center stood a round table large enough for representatives from 20 different worlds. Today, all seats were filled. News of Princess Aria's challenge had spread across the galaxy. The Emperor had been forced to call the full council when Aria invoked the ancient law of appeal. June watched from a small side entrance, his heart racing. He wore proper Astrian clothing now, given to him by a palace worker who supported the princess. Though he tried to stay hidden, many alien eyes turned to look at the human who had caused such commotion. Princess Aria entered the chamber with her head high. Her skin glowed with determination as she took her place at the speaking position. On her council, she began, "I stand before you to invoke the precedent of Princess Sun, established in the early expansion period." The Emperor frowned from his high seat. "This precedent is ancient and forgotten." "Not forgotten," Aria replied, "just ignored when convenient. Our laws still contain the right of royal members to choose mates from other species when such unions benefit the Empire." An elder council member leaned forward. "What benefit comes from choosing a human? Their world has little power or technology to offer." "They offer perspective," Aria said. "Creativity. New ways of thinking. Humans adapt faster than any species we've encountered. Their art, their music, their ideas could bring fresh energy to our empire." General Dorn's representative stood. "The Voraxian Empire cannot accept this insult. We offered a powerful alliance, and the princess chooses a primitive species instead." "I choose connection over convenience," Aria replied calmly. "True alliances come from understanding, not political arrangements." The debate continued for hours. Species from across the galaxy argued about traditions, politics, and the meaning of alliances. Some supported Aria's right to choose. Others backed the Emperor's position that royal marriages were too important to be based on personal feelings. June watched, understanding only parts of the discussion, even with his translator. But he could see that some council members were starting to consider Aria's arguments. Then General Dorn himself entered the chamber. He had arrived from the Voraxian homeworld, drawn by news of the challenge. His massive form towered over most species present. "This debate is pointless," Dorn announced. "The Astrian Empire must show strength, not weakness. An alliance with humans shows weakness. The ability to find value in different perspectives is our greatest strength," Aria countered. Dorn's face darkened. "If the princess rejects proper alliances, perhaps the Emperor needs new advisors. Perhaps the Astrian throne needs new blood." The threat in his words was clear. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. As Dorn spoke, June noticed something odd. One of Dorn's guards moved away from the group, circling slowly toward where Aria stood. The guard's hand drifted to a weapon hidden beneath his uniform. June had studied enough Voraxian body language to recognize the signs. The guard wasn't just moving positions. He was positioning for attack. Without thinking, June pushed through the side entrance and ran toward Aria. The Voraxian guard saw him coming and moved faster, pulling a small weapon from his uniform. "Aria!" June shouted, lunging forward as the assassin fired. June threw himself in front of the princess just as a burst of energy shot from the weapon. The blast hit him in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor at Aria's feet. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Guards tackled the assassin. Council members shouted. The Emperor called for order. Aria dropped to her knees beside June. "No," she whispered, her skin turning pale blue with fear. "June, please." His eyes fluttered open. "Are you hurt?" he asked weakly. "I'm fine," she said, tears falling onto his face. "Why did you do that?" He tried to smile. "Some things transcend worlds." Astrian healers rushed forward. They lifted June onto a floating platform and hurried him from the chamber, Aria following close behind. Outside the palace, news spread quickly. A human had saved the princess from assassination. The human had taken a blast meant for Astrian royalty. The human might die for his sacrifice. Thousands of Astrians gathered in a crystal plaza, their skin glowing with shared emotion. They'd waited for news talking about the human who had traveled across stars for their princess. In the healing chamber, Aria refused to leave June's side. The healers worked for hours, using technology humans had never seen to repair the damage to his body. His system is different from ours, the head healer told Arya. But he is strong for a human. There is hope. When the Emperor entered the healing chamber, Arya didn't stand or bow. She kept holding June's hand. The assassin has confessed, the Emperor said quietly. He was ordered by General Dorn to eliminate you if the council seemed to favor your position. Arya looked up at her father. And now, General Dorn has been arrested. The Voraxian Empire is sending representatives to apologize. The Emperor looked at the unconscious human. He saved your life. He saved more than that, Arya said. He showed us what true alliances can be, based on caring, not convenience. The Emperor was silent for a long time, watching the human who had risked everything for his daughter. Perhaps, he finally conceded, our traditions should evolve. The council has voted to uphold the precedent of Princess Sun. 3 days later, June opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Arya's face, her skin glowing golden with joy. Welcome back, she whispered. Did we win? He asked weakly. She smiled. We did more than win. We changed everything. Over the next months, as June recovered, a new chapter began. The Emperor announced that Princess Arya would establish the first human Astrian embassy, with June as co-ambassador. Their union was recognized under the ancient precedent, creating a new kind of alliance between worlds. Ships from Earth brought human artists, scientists, and diplomats to Astrea. Astrian knowledge began flowing to Earth. Other species watched with interest as this unusual partnership developed. 1 year after June had first met Arya in that garden on Earth, they stood together on the balcony of the new embassy. Below them, humans and Astrians mingled in the crystal plaza. Music from both worlds played together, creating something entirely new. Did you ever imagine this? June asked, looking out at their shared achievement. Arya's skin shimmered with happiness as she took his hand. Never. But now, I can't imagine any other path. Visitors to the embassy often ask how a princess and a human researcher had changed the course of interstellar relations. Arya always gave the same answer. Everyone wanted to marry me. She would tell their curious visitors, her skin glowing as she glanced at June. But I chose the one who saw beyond the princess. And in doing so, we all began to see beyond our differences to what connects us across the stars. And in the years that followed, countless other unusual alliances formed throughout the galaxy, each inspired by the princess who rejected tradition and the human who crossed the stars to be with her. Their story became legend, not just a tale of romance, but of courage to imagine new possibilities between worlds.